Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1672A, and today's date is September 24th, 2018, and the title of the episode is Central Banks Continue to Shift the Narrative Off of Them. Now, before we get started, I wanted to talk about the patriots that are fighting for our country. Every generation seems to have its own president. For some, it was Kennedy. For others, Nixon, Carter, Bush, or Reagan. Each seems to define an era. Our generation will have Donald Trump as their president. He was the one that took a shattered and broken Washington swamp and drained it of everything he saw that was bad. He will be remembered as a maverick, the man who drained the swamp. He overcame fierce opposition from Democrats and Republicans alike, a corrupt media, misinformation, and fake news to become the 45th president of the United States. Under his administration, America has seen its first major tax reform in 30 years, a renegotiation of the globalist trade deals, the termination of TPP, the process of getting rid of the central banking system, and maybe even resetting the system to make it a people system. His way has so far shaken the cobwebs from all corners of government, and he's only halfway through. Who knows what the next half will bring? To celebrate these first achievements in a fitting and lasting way, Noble Gold has produced an exclusive commemorative President Trump 2020 Freedom Coin. Minted from 1 troy ounce of .999 fine silver, the Trump Freedom Coin is a beautiful and striking coin. The guys at Noble Gold tell me that these are being talked about all over the country. If you're a Trump supporter or you like the perfect gift for someone who is, you'll be in good company. To order yours, go to TrumpCoin2020.com and put in the code X22 and you'll receive $5 off per coin for a limited time. TrumpCoin2020.com and put in the discount code X22 and you could be holding one of these fabulous Trump coins too. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, we've been following the economy for quite a while, since 2008, where we were looking at retail, housing, we were looking at all the manipulated numbers, and we're doing this for a reason. It wasn't to say, oh, the collapse was coming tomorrow. We never really put a timestamp on anything. We watched how the central bank, how the government continually manipulated the economy to make us believe that we're in recovery. Now, throughout the Obama regime, they were manipulating like crazy. Now, we were showing retail, housing, and many other things, how they were slowly declining. Retail was declining quite quickly, especially during the holiday season. Now, of course, the mainstream media, they were using the excuse that it was weather. Oh, it was bad weather, it was rainy, it was snowy. And what happened was retail continually declined during nice weather. So that story didn't fit anymore. So then they had to move to online sales. Amazon is taking away all sales. Now remember, all these retailers, they have an online presence. And even the stores who have an online presence, very easy to use, they still couldn't make it. And it wasn't that, oh, you know what, we're going to shut down all brick and mortar and we're just going to have online sales, an online presence. No, what happened was they went completely bankrupt because their model didn't work. What was their model? Their model was to sell to people. Guess what happened? The people, they didn't have jobs, or they got fired from their high-paying jobs and they had to take on part-time jobs. Wages were not moving up, but the value of the dollar continually declined. And now they're out there complaining, Walmart, Target, Gap, Best Buy, and many others, saying that if these tariffs take effect, we're going to start losing a lot more sales. No, what they're doing is they're projecting, letting you know they're going to be losing sales, no matter if the tariffs were there or not. It didn't make a difference because it happened year after year. And what's happening right now is the entire system is imploding. People don't have the jobs. What Trump is doing right now, he's manipulating the numbers to make everyone believe the economy is doing a lot better than it is, and it's being done on purpose. This way, they can't blame him and those in his administration for bringing down the economy. Now, these retailers have been having the same exact problem for a very long time. I mean, Target closed all their stores in Canada. Walmart closed many of their stores. Best Buy is getting rid of their tiny stores, and sales have been dropping. They haven't been all going to Amazon. If that was the case, they'd be multi-trillion-dollar business right now, because this is a trillion-dollar industry. And they're saying that these duties that are going to come into effect by year end, it's going to affect everything after the holiday season. Now, this holiday season probably won't be that great. And what we're seeing here is that everything's starting to break down. Now, let's think about this for a second. I mean, if you go back in time, every time the government raised the federal tax rate or states raised their tax rate, guess what? People were still purchasing in retail stores. Actually, they were expanding at a time when they were raising sales tax. That's very interesting. Now they're complaining that this is going to destroy their whole entire business. Really? Is it? If the economy was strong and people actually had jobs, high-paying jobs, not part-time jobs, we have 100 million people out of the workforce, actually over that, they wouldn't be having a problem. The problem is that the value of the dollar has been decreasing. And if the value of the dollar is decreasing, it takes a lot more dollars to pay for that piece of merchandise. And if your wages aren't moving up to keep up with inflation, people have a problem. If you don't find a high-paying job and you come from a high-paying job and you go to a lower-paying job, or you have to get a part-time job, you're not going to be able to spend money in these stores, even online. It's going to be completely impossible. And this is what we're really seeing. But they're projecting out there the idea that these tariffs are going to bring down their business. No, they're not. We've been seeing retail decline for a very long time. Actually, it was declining when people told us it was perfectly strong. And then all of a sudden, the retail apocalypse hit. And then people started to realize we were having a huge problem here. And then all of a sudden, they acknowledged that retail was in trouble. And that's because people are not getting the jobs. They don't have the pay anymore. People coming out of college, they're having a very difficult time paying their student loans. Is that because of tariffs? No. They're not paying their loans because they don't have a job. Especially the one they thought they were going to have coming out of college. They might have gotten a lower payer job or a part-time job, but it makes it very difficult to pay for that student loan. And this is why they adjusted the student loans to make it easier for people. They said, okay, how much are you making? $15, $16 an hour? All right, we'll readjust the student loans and we'll put it out, 25, 30 years. Then you can pay for it. This is why we went through many stages through the economy. And you can really see the stages in the central bank economy. There was a time where everyone just paid cash. And then all of a sudden, the value of the dollar decreased, and it really accelerated in the 70s, 80s, 90s. And when you say purchase a car, people used to purchase a car in cash. Then we had to move to financing. It was like 36 months, 48 months. Then they had to make it 60 months, then 72 months. And guess what? It just got too expensive. So then they had to move to leasing. That brought the price down because you're really renting a car when you lease. And now it's getting to the point where they have to come up with some other strategy to get you in and make it so you can afford a car. And this is what happens over time. This is why they have to bring in the subprime people. This is why they have to keep manipulating all this to make these type of purchases affordable, at least in your mind. All they did was make you rent something where you used to own it. And you can see this through housing, you can see it with student loans, you can see it with everything. But what we're watching right now is the destruction of the economy. Forget about the statistical numbers. We have to talk reality now. I mean, you can change anything. You can take, the GDP numbers like Trump did and offset them by $1 trillion and make it look fantastic. Does that mean the economy is really doing better? No. We're seeing the housing market. Well, it looks like we're heading towards another crisis. For several years, the housing market has been one of the bright spots of the U.S. economy. That's because they manipulated the housing market. They pumped up the bubbles. Home prices, especially in the hottest markets on the East and West Coast, have been soaring. But now that has completely changed. And some sellers are cutting prices at a pace that we have not seen since the last recession. In case you're wondering, this is definitely a major red flag for the economy. And when we look at the home prices, we see that they are dropping. Now, according to Redfin, more than 1 out of every 4 homes for sale in America had a price drop within the most recent 4-week period. Of course, the reason why prices are being dropped is because homes are not selling. The supply of homes available for sale is shooting up. And that is good news for buyers, but bad news for sellers. This happened back in 2008. A lot of people were putting the houses on the market. But guess what? The prices were too high. They started to come down. People started to pull their houses off the market. Then we had a shortage of houses. But people didn't want to buy the houses because they saw the prices coming down. So they waited until they reached a certain level where they thought they were going to be comfortable. But people continually pulled their houses off the market. This is what's going to happen right now. And we're starting to see prices come down. And they're going to come down quite quickly. Because the whole thing was pumped up and it was a gigantic bubble. And Bank of America, they're out there calling it. They're saying this is the peak in home sales. It has been reached. So that means we're going to be heading to the downside in homes. And we're already seeing it, just like we saw it in retail. Now remember, Trump is out there and he's manipulating the economy to make everyone believe the economy is doing well. He's actually using the deep state, the central bank tools against them because they really can't come out and say, hey, you're manipulating the economy. You changed GDP. You're changing unemployment. We know what you're doing. They can't come out and say that because Obama did this. The president before him did this, and the president before him did this. And they can't come out and say you're manipulating something because all he has to do is say, hey, I'm using the same calculation as Obama. So if I'm manipulating it, then he manipulated it. And they don't want to do this. And this is why he's able to manipulate it in a certain way where the mainstream media, they can't do anything about it. And I do believe the central bank, the Fed, the person that he put in there, Powell, is working with him to raise interest rates to bring down the system. Now, the central banks like the IMF, the BIZ, they're out there. They're trying to shift the narrative any way they possibly can. And this is what they always do. They always point the finger at somebody else. I mean, the BIZ started out saying cryptocurrencies isn't money. Look away from there. The BIZ came out and said, hey, countries are taking on too much debt. And of course they were taking on too much debt. This is a central bank system. Their system is based on debt. But what they do is they point the finger someplace else, saying it's because of the countries. Oh, it's because of businesses. Oh, it's because of what they did on Wall Street. No, this is a central bank system. It's going to crash no matter what. The BIZ is out there, the IMF is out there, and they're pointing the finger at all different places. Actually, the BIZ is out there, and this is the Bank of International Settlement. This is the bank of all banks. And what they're saying right now, and they're warning that for decades, that these firms, these businesses, these zombie firms, because of low interest rates. Wait, who set the low interest rates? Oh, that's right. It was the central banks again. They're saying that these zombie firms, they're rising to all-time highs since the 80s, threatening economic growth and preventing interest rates from rising. That's why they can't get the interest rates where they want them. It's because of these zombie firms. Well, they lowered the rates. Actually, Europe, they're in the negative territory. Here in the United States, they continually lowered them. They're bringing them up now, and that's for a whole different reason. But what we're seeing right now is the central banks, they are trying to shift the narrative. Remember, their whole entire plan was to have some type of an event so they can blame all of this on that event. And it was going to be war. This way they can say, oh, you have to sacrifice, you have to tighten your belt, we're not getting the food, credit's freezing up, and this is because of war. Everything has moved towards war production. This is why we're not seeing this. This is why governments have to borrow a lot more money, but they don't have that now. And they're in trouble. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to gain the narrative. And it's becoming more and more difficult as they try to do this, because what we're seeing is countries are starting to move away from the private Western central bank system. And we can see the call is out there, and this is from Russia, saying all countries should be using their national currencies. We see BRICS, they're attacking the World Trade Organization, just like Trump is. They want amendments. They want to change it, just like Trump has changed the NAFTA agreement, have gotten rid of the TPP agreement. Anything that's attached to globalist or central bank system, which is centralized, they are removing it now. And the central banks, they're worried. They've come out with warnings that, the rise of what Trump is doing is going to worsen the global economy. No, it's going to make it very difficult for the central bank to keep their narrative, and they're going to lose control of the global system because it's being ripped apart. It's being decentralized. That's what's happening right now. And the central banks, they're trying to do whatever they possibly can to hold on to their narrative, and it's falling apart. And pretty soon, everyone's going to be pointing the finger at them. They're going to be blamed for this entire system coming down. People are going to learn the truth. And people are going to be shocked at what these central bank establishments have done to the world. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.